So, one thing that happens every single offseason is players will get surgeries. These surgeries could be for their knees, for their back, for pretty much whatever. It's just to kind of help them get over the season, right? Because at the end of the day, just because a player plays the whole season and doesn't get injured doesn't mean that player's 100% healthy going into the offseason. I know it's crazy to say that, but the facts are the facts, right? Sometimes, you might mess up your knee a little bit throughout the year, but you're not, hurt enough to come off the field. But then once you get to the offseason, it's like, all right, time to get the surgeries down, time to get some resting down, some vacations down, all that kind of good stuff. So this happens all the time with players. Now, when I say surgeries, usually the surgeries, they get surgeries, it's like 1 or 2 weeks, up to a couple months potentially. So they might get a surgery in February. I think February is like the go-to month for a lot of players to get surgeries. And then they're ready to go by training camp. They're ready to go by OTAs, mini camps. They're all good to go. But they have to get this done in order to be okay for the upcoming season, right? At the end of the day, playing 17 games and even more depending on, postseason, it's not easy. So Sam Hubbard went ahead and got his surgery. He just actually finished his surgery. After last season, Hubbard underwent ankle surgery to alleviate a lingering issue, and it turns out it was the right decision. Which, again, that's another really big thing on why a lot of these players get surgeries is because, as it says here, sometimes they don't know the problem, right? You don't know exactly what is going on, and you could actually have what you think is like a small problem leads to a big problem. But you catch it in time before you go out there and start practicing again, and bam, now you avoid a long-term issue. Exactly what happened here. He said, I'm feeling really good. Really glad I got it fixed. Been bugging me for a long time. Hubbard told Bengals.com Jeff Hobson. He added the treatment is allowing him to move and play like he wants to. Now, there are some rumors, I feel like, especially, I guess, at the end of last year and into this offseason, there's still people who want us to cut Sam Hubbard. And I know, yes, he is costing us a good amount. I know we just restructured Trey Hendrickson's deal. And then I'm going to get a comment saying, wait, who wants to cut him? I got a lot of comments about it. I've seen comments on Twitter about it. There was articles written about potentially cutting him. I would never, ever want to see this man not in a Bengals uniform. I want to see him in a Bengals uniform until the day he retires. But going into this upcoming season, right now, he is owed $10.1 million. Next year, it's $11.6 million. If we go ahead and go to the cut, post June 1st cut, let's do that. We would save $6 million, $6.1 million, and we would save $7.6 next year. So this is why I think a lot of people were suggesting that we cut him, is because the fact that right here, you save $6.1 million against the cap, and then 7.6, which, don't get me wrong, is great numbers, right? And for a guy who is 29 years old, I see somewhat of why people are suggesting it, but it's one of those situations, right, where it's like, if Miles Murphy would have taken off last year, he would have been an absolute animal. And I'm not sitting here saying he was bad. He was not bad. For his, what he was able to accomplish is actually really good. But again, like I said, if he was defensive rookie of the year type of good, right? You could have made this argument where it's like, okay, well, we know now Miles Murphy is the starter at the left. We know the right side is going to be Trey Hendrickson. Maybe not cut Sam Hubbard, but you might want to go ahead and restructure his contract and kind of lower that cap down. Because, again, 10.1, 11.6 doesn't sound like a lot. And it's not a lot when you look at the grand scheme of things, those other positions in the NFL. But when you look at the fact of how much you're going to be paying Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, potentially T. Higgins if you get a contract worked out, that's when things start to become a problem, when you have all those things to have, and now you have your defensive lineman who's making $10.1 million, right? And again, whenever feel like the social media or football fans on Twitter, whenever they see we can save $6 million or $8 million, it's instantly, all right, do it, cut him, because I don't think people really think about, well, you have to replace him, right? You have to get the same value back. And on the other side, Hendrickson, 20.166, 18.666. His contract, his salary cap hit is not light at all. And he just reworked his contract to add 2 additional years. So, yeah, it's a lot, man. It's a lot. So, when you start breaking this down, especially when it comes to the cap, yeah, $29 million, $21 million. Obviously, if we get him on a contract, he'll probably be around that price tag normally. 21.8, $22 million. Then you got to think Jamar Chase is going to be coming in at probably $30 million, which will be even higher than Joe Burrow. And speaking of that, Joe is going to be costing us $46.25 million next year. You start to kind of do the numbers there, and you're like, this is why draft picks need a hit. This is why Myles Murphy is so important, and we need him to take off this year, is because of that fact. Like, paying $11 million for an edge rusher is not easy to do when you have a lot of other great players. And right now, Myles Murphy, where is he? Probably gonna literally pass him right there. $2.8 million this year. Next year, Myles Murphy is 3.4. Yeah, I mean that's $7 million less than Hubbard, right? And if he can take off and he can become that superstar we need him to be, that's a beautiful thing, right? And then you obviously look at his fifth year option, so you can keep extending him. So, yeah, I'm happy that Hubbard is okay. I'm happy everything is good with him, but that's it. We have a lot of money locked up on the defensive line. We now have Sheldon Rankins locked up for 2 years on the defensive line. We have Hubbard. We have Hendrickson. BJ Hill. What is BJ Hill's salary cap hit? 10.8. Yeah. 10.8 on the defensive line with BJ Hill. Then you got also, Myles Murphy, who's cheap. Yeah. That's the kicker, man. That's a lot of money locked up on the defensive line, which I'm not saying that you shouldn't have that much money you should have locked up, but here's the thing, right? There's only so much salary cap, okay? In theory, where teams lock up a lot of money is the offensive line, the defensive line, and usually they kind of split up the rest between a really great receiver. Oh, sorry, the quarterback. I'm sorry. Quarterback is number 1. Offensive line is number 2. Number 3 is the defensive line. Number 4 is then they split it up between a star corner, a star receiver, maybe not usually a running back at all, but usually not a tight end either. Sometimes a really good linebacker, a safety. But after quarterback, offensive line, defensive line, it kind of goes wishy-washy with the rest, right? But those 3 positions, the most money you're going to spend. So when you have it locked up in, okay, quarterback, we have it locked up in. Offensive line, we have a lot for Orlando Brown, but other than Orlando Brown, we're not paying anyone really that much money. Cap was only $9.2 million. Teddy K is only 7.4. So the rest next is defensive line, right? But the problem is if we lock up a lot of money in wide receiving core, something else has to struggle, right? Something else has to give. So we'll see how it all works out. Guys, tell me down below your thoughts, opinions. I'll see you guys next one.